Hello, welcome back to the Villa View. It's time for the post-match pints in association with Purity Ale. If you use the code #VillaView, you'll get 10% off everything Purity have to offer. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by Neil Dunworth from every Aston Villa pod this weekend in existence. He's even had to move out of his studio because he's done so many podcasts. Neil, you okay?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I broke my studio, so I didn't break my studio. There's building work going on in my house, so I said we kind of moved out for a short period of time, but yeah. So I'm on assignment in locations unknown at this moment in time.
I feel like you are being held hostage somewhere because you are talking quieter than you normally than you usually
Like,
talk. Sorry, it feels like you're talking like quieter. Like you've got to be quiet for some reason.
yeah, that's because I'm staying in my partner's parents' place, and I'm just afraid in case I wake anybody up because they're all gone to bed.
Yeah, Neil is being held hostage at his in-laws by the looks of things. Yeah, blink twice if you need rescuing. Neil, we're here to talk about Brentford 1, Aston Villa 1. And to be honest, I watched the 90 minutes yesterday live from where I was staying, and I have to say, although I thought Villa ended the game really well, actually, I thought we might go on and sneak it at the end. I think that's a very good point, especially under the circumstances of the way the second half went. Villa, I don't think Villa were at it for probably 80 minutes of that game, although actually we did have some moments in the first half, but generally I didn't think we were really at our best yesterday at all. Ended the game well, but to go to Brentford, who are a good side, especially at home, that's a good point.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and it's I was very buoyed by the fact that we had showed character to essentially turn it on for 5 minutes because we weren't able to do that, and I was delighted that Douglas Luiz got the goal because he's been a real leader for this team during this upturn, and as you say, a point, snatching a draw from the jaws of defeat is huge for our European credentials. And if we get into Europe by a point, and we can look back at this game and say we had no right to come away from Brentford with a point. Never mind, we should have been 3 goals down. We should have been a 3-0 loss. Really, if you look at the chances they created, yeah, we come away with a 1-1 draw. And you think back, Dan, I remember we did a podcast many moons ago now at this stage, and we talked about, it was actually under Steven Gerrard, I think, and we talked about the fact that Villa could either only win or lose. We couldn't draw. And we spoke about Brighton and how Brighton had something like 15 draws last season, and it was keeping them like mid-table. Converting those losses into draws was something we asked for, and we got a draw out of absolutely nothing against Brentford. And I think that's a great point considering only Newcastle and Arsenal have taken 3 points at their ground this season.
Yeah, Brentford just seemed to shackle us. We couldn't get Ollie Watkins in the game for love nor money. As much as we tried, he's very much on the periphery all game. Like I said, I think in the first half we did a couple of things. Well, there was a couple of moments. McGinn curled a shot wide. I remember Buendia went on a mazy run had a shot with the outside of his boot that went just wide. So we did have a couple of moments. And in the first half, I'd say it was probably relatively even, but Brentford kind of had us a bit like us against Newcastle the week before. I think Brentford just had a good game plan and they managed to nullify us, but we did keep going in the second half. Again, it wasn't against the run of play at the time because we had a strong 5 minutes, but we did manage to come away with what is a very good point. What do you think the reasoning behind the performance yesterday? You're not going to play well every game, are you? You're not going to be able to do it. You are not going to win every single football match. So when we haven't won, the fact that we have taken a draw is a huge plus, especially as Dean Avery says in the comments, still unbeaten, and that has been a bogey. Well, Brentford away has been a real tough place for Villa over the years, even in the Championship, well, especially in the Championship.
Yeah, and good to see you, Dean, as well. But I 100% agree with you there. Bogey ground, good points, still unbeaten, 9 unbeaten. We spoke, Dan, as well, saying that 10 unbeaten in the Premier League, even though it isn't 10 wins in a row, it's probably a better feat than 10 wins in a row in the Championship. And I think yourself and Greg Evans agreed at that as well when you spoke on the 1874 podcast. Brilliant podcast last week as well, if anyone hasn't listened to it. And I know you have. Go back and listen to it again because there's a lot of good stuff in it. But I agree with you on that. And my big thing with Brentford is and I hope it's something that we can get to over time with Unai Emery. And I think maybe only we could, now that we've got a game plan and we've got a system in place, and we were searching for identity under Steven Gerrard, which we never got, and now we have an identity. Brentford have an identity, and it just goes to show they're probably their most consistent and probably their player's player. What I mean by that is the player, if you were to ask anybody in the Brentford dressing room, who always gives 7.5 out of 10 every game, never goes missing, and is always that dependable guy that will give you the ball, will take the ball from you and just keep the ball moving, they probably say Christian Norsgaard. They probably, because he's a linchpin in there. He just keeps everything flowing. He's a really good midfielder. He goes off in 47 minutes, and he was having a good game. Goes off 47 minutes, and Onyenya comes in, and he does exactly the same thing for Brentford.
Yeah, they're a system team, aren't they? Everyone
really
can just come in and do a job. A bit like we've been in recent weeks, to be fairness, with the way Dendoncker came in last week against Newcastle, just fitted in and did his job perfectly. They've got some good players, Brentford. I thought Mbeumo was a constant threat all the way through the game. He's a player, I think, who just gets better and better every week in the Premier League. When I first saw him for Brentford in the Premier League, I was thinking, I'm not sure he's a Premier League player, but he's a constant outlet for them, and he was a thorn in our side. I thought he gave Moreno a difficult game at times, and he was part of what pinned Villa back. Villa just could. We spoke about in recent podcasts. It's amazing how the players pick the ball up in space. We couldn't really do that against Brentford on Saturday. We really struggled to pick the ball up in space and find players in space. And when we did ever get anywhere near the goal, it felt like Ben Mee. Hints of that Fulham playoff final where the crowd were just shouting "Ream" every 5 minutes. It felt very much like that yesterday, going up against Ben Mee. He just seemed to be in the way every time we did get anywhere near the goal. So it was a tough game for us, and I expected a tough game. We said in the preview, myself and Dave Reed, that I think I said this actually, that I didn't think Brentford would be on the beach. I thought actually they'll use this game to reset and get back up for it and try and move themselves up the table. And actually, I thought they were at it, Brentford, from minute one. There was no way really they were losing that game. I didn't feel they came there to get something. They were at home to get something at the week. I just felt they meant business from minute one, and I knew straight away this isn't going to be easy for Villa today. This is going to be a really, really tough game. And you saw, half time, Emi Martinez goes off. I mean, we've done the backup goalkeeper to death. I'm not going to go into that today, but it was more the difference of what Martinez has done with his feet recently. I really felt we missed that because we couldn't seem to start attacks even in the second half, and just Emi's presence and him not being there, it was a real hindrance to us, and that was part of why I think we ended up a little bit deeper than we wanted to be. And Kevin Schade should have scored. A mistake.
Good player
from Olsen, really, really bad mistake from him. And Schade rushes, he's rounded him, he's done the hard work. I don't know why he must have just thought someone was going to come in on him. He couldn't believe his luck, and he's ended up rushing, and he's put it wide. So that was a huge let off for Villa. But when their goal came from Ivan Toney, a rare switch off from Ashley Young in recent weeks as well at the back post, it did feel very much like that goal had been coming.
Yeah, and there's kind of two talking points within that you mentioned about Emi Martinez. Remind me to come back to the goal in case I forget to, but before I start rambling on the Emi Martinez piece with his feet, and I think that is the talking point. The talking point isn't really, you can talk about the shot stopping all you want. I think our defence were good enough to be able to limit the amount of shots, or they should have been better even at limiting the amount of shots that the Brentford had, and giving them open chances. Yes, that Schade one that he had, that comes from goalkeeping mistake. Okay, we'll put that in a silo for the moment. We've been there before, you kind of have to expect that from that goalkeeper at this moment in time. But the feet is the big thing, because in recent times, and there are five match unbeaten run, and anybody who's listened to me talk with the game previously, like you'll know that one of the biggest things that I found was we weren't able to play that diagonal ball out to our fullbacks, and that is a high press, mid block, busting pass. So what it does is it shifts everybody to one side. It allows us to isolate people on the other side, which Emery has been brilliant at doing. It allows Buendia to get into that pocket in around the halfway, the centre circle and the attacking side of the field. We weren't able to do that because we couldn't get the ball out. Like Olsen just doesn't have that in his arsenal. So it was either pass wide to the edge of the box, which pushes everybody up forward and really only allows you to maybe go long or to go out towards the the right out towards the touchline, which also plays as a defender for them and almost limits the amount of where you can pass the ball. And it showed because we were very limited and we had to start going long. But we were okay with it. I actually didn't mind how we adapted to that. What it is it's the confidence that the ability to be able to play your A game brings to defence and brings to midfield. You could see that confidence begin to kind of ebb and flow throughout that second half. Whereas even in the first half, we weren't playing well. Martinez was having a great game, and
Yeah, he
the
really
confidence was still there. Yeah, absolutely, he was. And then when you talk about the goal as well, Dan, the goal was a goal we conceded at the start of the season. And this is why I talk about confidence levels. Ashley Young tries to, for whatever reason, he doesn't stoop and head that ball out for a corner. He tries to hook the ball clear with his right leg or something and misses it, and Ivan Toney gets in it. But the big thing here was the communication was lacking. I don't know whether the goalkeeper usually communicates in an instance like that, but what I do know is that Emi Martinez loves to get to his back post from across like that as quick as he can. We've seen it a million times from corners. Martinez loves to make that move back to the back post. Olsen didn't. It isn't his fault that we scored. It's Ashley Young's fault. It's Ashley Young's fault that he lost him at the back post. But how do you let Ivan Toney ghost in at the back post is what I'm saying. So where's the communication from the back line at that stage? You'd think that Ashley Young was able to pick him up. But the big thing here is we can talk about the goal and we're not apportioning blame as much as we're talking about it here. The big thing here is that the team lifted themselves up off the floor, albeit it took them the 87th minute to do so. And we got the point when it looked like we were dead and gone.
Yeah, we kept going, didn't we? I think on their goal, I think it's a collective thing, isn't it? That back five have been playing together every week, probably the last 4 or 5 weeks since Matty Cash has been out. So they're in a rhythm, they're in a routine. Communication will be a massive part of that. They'll know where each other's going to be. And this is not Olsen's fault, just by him being a different character, just as it would be if any of the back four that had been playing came out and someone else had to come in. You're going to suffer a little bit of a dip. It's not going to be the same because Olsen hasn't been playing every week, and that back five would have been in a complete rhythm. And it's a bad goal. It's bad down the one flank really to let the cross come in, and it's not great from Ashley Young. You could see in his reaction that he knew he'd made a mistake. But it's one of those things. Again, you're going to concede a goal at some point. We're not going to just keep churning out clean sheet after clean sheet. It's not going to happen. But Steve Deary says it past Villa would have lost that game. It's a decent point in the end away from home. And we did keep going. I mean, for 85 minutes, nothing we were doing was really working. Emery made three subs, a bit like the Leicester game, wasn't he? I think it's the same three. It could have been the same three players that he brought on actually. Luca Dean, Callum Chambers, and Bertrand Traore, and ended up coming on. It wasn't Bertrand Traore changed the game. I actually think Luca Dean changed the game, which completely validates what Greg Evans said on 1874. I thought Luca Dean looked really dangerous down that left-hand side, and we kept patient. Brentford probably went a little bit deeper than they would have wanted to, and we kept for 5 minutes. We kept coming back. We were playing so high. I think Consa may have even made a pass in the build-up to the goal and he was probably 25, 30 yards from goal. So we, at this point, had pushed right up and were high, and it's a good ball in from Luca Dean. And what I will say is, one excellent composure from Buendia. He didn't lash at it. He managed to somehow give himself time and pick the right pass to Douglas Luiz after a bit of a bounce around. And from Douglas Luiz, that is not an easy finish at all. That is a good finish first time. That's not as easy as Douglas Luiz has made that look at all. So I thought from a goal point of view, it was a really good goal for Villa. And I've given Luca Dean some criticisms in probably the last 3-4 months, but he did come on, and I mean he got kicked in the face, and I've no idea how that's not deemed a free kick. That's absolutely ridiculous. But for him to be involved in the goal was really good, and it's nice play from Buendia and Luiz as well.
I absolutely agree, and I think a lot of it goes down to Unai Emery as well, because he took off Alex Moreno, who wasn't having his best game. That's okay, but the difference in the attacking style with Moreno trying to get around the fullback or trying to get around that defence, we couldn't get around that defence. That defence was staunch. It really was, and we couldn't get around it. And Moreno was more of a guy who was trying to do that, play the 1-2, get into the byline and cut it across. He's been superb at it, and he will be superb at it at Craven Cottage if he starts. At Villa Park if he starts. Digne being a different type of fullback, the stand and deliver fullback, as we've heard him called previously. He pumped a couple of balls into the box, which we weren't doing an awful lot of. and we kind of started to put them under a small bit of pressure because that's where the ball came from. Was it Lucadine cross ball doesn't get cleared, bobbles to Buendia, and it was just a case of us getting the ball, getting back bodies in there, and we did. And as you say, it was a fantastic finish. So Unai Emery deserves a bit of credit as well because we changed our point of attack because we couldn't get around the back of them anymore. We changed it to be that more mid-type crossing. And I liked it. And it is a time and a place for it. I hate when we do it 30 times in a game like we used to see sometimes under Steven Gerrard. But there was a
That was
time
all
and a
we did.
place for that. Yeah, and but as I say, we got results out of it because Brentford were like, oh my God, it's a different point of attack and we have to set up completely differently for this now. And we got our just desserts. So Brentford fans should have felt like we got a bit of a smash and grab coming out of that game, and that's that's why I'm very buoyed about this as well. Is that, like, for once it's us coming away from a ground and going, rode our luck there, but we chug on, and that's our blip out of the way, hopefully, for this run in.
Yeah, it sets us up nicely for Tuesday. Obviously, a big home game, a game you think we can win at home to Fulham, although they've picked up a couple of decent results recently. But you just those subs just change things around a little bit. Then McGinn moved back in the middle, and I still think it's really clever the way McGinn seems to be the one who's acting as the deeper one in the two. He was involved in everything good we did, at the latter part of that game. And it's Louise who ends up in the box. I mean, over the years, that's not what you would have expected. You would have expected it to be the other way around under the previous two managers, but it's not. It's Louise who's further forward, and McGinn sitting back and kind of dictating things. And like I say, he was involved in everything good that we did. The other thing I liked, and we've seen it in Premier League games recently. Now, you've got a striker sitting on the bench and you're chasing the game 1-0. This just sums up Unai Emery. You've got John Duran sat on the bench. You think when you're losing a game, he's got to throw a striker on. He's got to throw the guy. He's got to throw the striker on, the big guy up front, surely. But he doesn't. He leaves him sat down for 90 minutes. And I've watched Arsenal in a few games recently when they're trying to go ahead, and Arteta's throwing on all the attacking players. And I actually think it's made them worse. He didn't against Southampton, but in the other two games, I think it actually made them worse, having too many attacking players and completely ripping it up what they do well, completely going away from that at the latter stages of games. Emery made a subtle tweak in moving McGinn back in the middle, but he didn't throw that striker on. And we've seen Villa managers do it over the years, naming no name Steve Bruce, where they just throw on all the strikers, and you look hopeless because you've gone away from everything that you've worked on and all the patterns of play that you're used to. And I thought that was really refreshing that he didn't just throw the striker on. He bought Bertrand Traoré on, who's been an impact player in recent weeks, put McGinn back in the position where he's performed really, really well. And we kept, even though it hadn't been working, we kind of kept to the basic principles of what we're good at, if that makes sense. And that's what got us back in the game, not the fact that we had to throw on a striker and we actually made ourselves worse and end up losing the game. I thought that was really refreshing. If anything I've said just made sense, it made sense in my head.
Yeah, no, you did. You absolutely did. But there must be a small bit of you that isn't a bit disappointed that Diego Carlos didn't come out as a second striker. No, there isn't. No, that Chris Samba style. No,
just those days are gone for us. I think. Has that happened again, Fred? Has anyone else done that? There must have been
Steve Watson, if I remember rightly.
There must have been another one since Chris Samba. He can't have been the last one. Someone's got desperate at some point and thrown another striker.
Since Samba,
must have done. We must have had another one up front at some point.
We must have, is right, yeah.
I've got a 98, 99 home shirt that I wore to the last home game with Skameka on the back, and the only reason I've got Skameka on the back is just as homage to that brief 3-game period where he played up front for us, because we just sold Dwight York and we didn't have any strikers, so Skameka played up front with Julian Jochi. Great old.
Great
times. Do you understand what I mean with that? Where the easy thing to do, and what most managers would do is just, let's put the big striker on. But he didn't do that, and you end up salvaging a point from sticking to your basic principles, which I think is great.
Yeah, and as you see, we spoke about Brentford being a system team. That goes to show that Villa are comfortable in their system. The system meant more to Unai Emery than just basically a Hail Mary pass that he was trying for. He was willing to go out on his sword and say, I trust my system, and for us to lose 1-0, I trust my system, then for me to throw Hail Mary and everyone go, brilliant, he brought on all the attacking players and they drew the game. And he was vindicated. And that's managerial courage. Here we go in. Anybody ever done a business course ever in their entire life? You'll hear about things like managerial courage and things like that. That's what he has. He stuck to his guns. And you know, that's the difference between when you have a serial kind of professor of the game, or somebody who's managed at the top level, manages in cup games and stuff like that as well. You need to have that set of steely, balls essentially to be able to back yourself and to say, I know my training ground methods are right. I know what I'm doing is correct, and I know this team has a pathway to win this game. There you go. Now it's not going to always work. There comes a time when you get into the trying the same thing over and over again, it becomes insane. Realm of possibility. Yeah, realm of possibilities. But in this instance, and in a lot of instances, Unai Emery has been proven right by doing this. So until you get proven wrong, why doubt yourself? So fair play to him.
It's the same with the Leicester game. I guess we didn't dramatically change system even up against Tim. He bought Bertrand Traore, or maybe shifted a few players' positions, but we won that game late as well. So that's 3 points really won in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
From positions where we've taken points that we maybe were fortunate to take because he's made subs and he's changed something. Because Luca Dean was no doubt a huge part of that. And then we did kind of get some momentum, and Brentford looked like they were struggling with us a little bit. Louise curled one wide, lovely little effort. Suddenly he's very, very confident. He curls one wide, and then the cross comes into Watkins, and I don't know whether Buendia shouted, but Buendia was in a better position. The ball comes in. Was that Luca Dean again?
No, I think it was from the right hand side.
I can't remember.
Actually,
I think it might have been Chambers.
I think it was. Yeah,
I think it was Callum Chambers who, again, I thought Callum Chambers did decent when he came on it. Yeah. Came on it right back as well. Callum Chambers swings across it, and then in recent ways, to be fair, everything Watkins has hit has gone in, including headers. But if he'd have just left this one to Buendia, we may have been walking away with 3 unjustified points now.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And as we all know, Emi Buendia is lethal in the air for a man who's only 5'7". He has scored quite a lot of goals in the air, but look, I suppose if you're the main striker and if you're after scoring 11 and 12 and a ball comes in like that, you think you're going to be able to guide it some way into the back of the net. But hindsight, I suppose, is 2020, and we don't know whether he heard the call afterwards. But it's a lot of cliches just came out of my mouth there. But
it really did.
Yeah, as I say, could you imagine the jubilation that we would have right now on this post-match podcast if it was 2-1 to Aston Villa? We would be sitting here going, "Oh my God, Brentford must think that they must have broken a mirror at halftime to get that bad luck for us to score 2 in the last 10 minutes." It would have been up there with the Wolves scored 3 in 10 minutes to beat us 3-2 2 seasons ago. It would have been a real smash and grab. And look, put it this way, I would have absolutely loved it because I'm an Aston Villa fan and I want us to get to Europe. But I could, it would have been completely against the script, and it would have been a 1 in a million piece. But if you were to ask me what my opinion is, yeah, I think Emi Buendia nods that in the back of the net if it's left to him.
Yeah, I thought Buendia was really good. I think even when things aren't coming off for him, he's always grafting. He's always getting around the pitch. He's always trying to make stuff happen. He's always live. I think in recent weeks, Emi Buendia has been low key, really, really good for Villa. Like I say, I think it's a point gained for Villa. And a lot of the times in that second half, the only thing missing for Brentford was little ginger Ryan Woods in the middle of the pitch, popping the ball around. Because I was starting to think, I hate Brentford. Why are they always better than us when we go there? I don't understand this. What is it about them that we just can't seem to get one over them away from home? But we rescued the point. And looking at this weekend, Spurs have been absolutely humbled at Newcastle today. Tells you what a job we did on Newcastle that last week. But Liverpool have won, yes, but I think Liverpool will win games. Unfortunately, Brighton have gone 120 minutes and then not got to the FA Cup final. I think that's good for us in terms of it opens up 7th, doesn't it? If my maths is correct, you back us to finish in the top 7 at the moment. Spurs are dropping like an absolute stone, dropping worse than a stone. I don't know if there's a phrase of anything dropping that's worse than a stone, but they are horrific. I tweeted earlier, for them to be the most embarrassing team in London at the moment is some going, considering what's happened to Chelsea this season. They are absolutely atrocious at the moment. Spurs. I mean, they made a mockery of what I said on The Athletic on Friday as well, when I slammed the manager for rolling out the exact same thing that Conte does and not changing the system, and then he changes the system and they're 5-0 down at half time. So yeah, maybe he knows more than I do. But yeah, for them to get smashed today, they're on the way down. They've got no momentum whatsoever, Spurs. So top 7 certainly feels doable. Top 6 feels doable. My opinion is I think Liverpool will finish 5th. And then it's going to be out of us and Brighton.
I think so too.
If you look at Liverpool's fixtures, they've got on paper Liverpool have a decent run of fixtures, but to be fair, they've drop points
Give
many a time
us.
this season that you wouldn't expect them to do. But top 6 for Villa and Europa League football is very much on. It's very much on, and that point it just keeps it going in a positive direction. And Tuesday, Fulham at home, like I've said, I think that's a game Villa will be favourites for, despite Fulham's recent results. I would still fancy us to beat Fulham at Villa Park.
Yeah, I think it's the definitive game of our season so far. I think if we get ahead of Spurs obviously having to play Manchester United. I think next. I think they play United on Wednesday.
Yes,
Then we play United on
and
Saturday.
Watching them today, there's nothing that
Sunday.
majorly scares me other than the fact that we're largely dross at Old Trafford.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that scares me there as long as Bruno Fernandes doesn't foul Konsa and get Manchester United a penalty, or VAR doesn't do its usual tricks.
Yeah.
There's nothing to fear from Manchester United watching them today. So these next 2 games, it's a good chance at 6 points as far as I'm concerned.
So yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I can't remember what the rest of Spurs games are. I had it a moment ago, but it's gone off the top of my tongue. But so yes, we need to beat Fulham. We beat Fulham. It opens up possibilities. If we can leapfrog Spurs, it opens up possibilities then for us. Oh, there we go. So yeah, so Manchester United, Liverpool. Spurs having the next 2 games.
By the way, where has Adam pulled that from?
He's amazing. Adam is just the best producer. And you always say it, Dan. You always say he's the best producer.
Rave about him week in, week out.
Yeah, but you see that you've got United, you've got Liverpool, then you've got Palace, who look, hey, they're Palace. Roy Hodgson, who knows what he's going to pull out of his pocket against them. But what I'm getting at here, then they play us, so we get ahead of Spurs. They get nothing out of their next 2 games. It's really his game on, and I think if we finish ahead of Spurs, we finish in the top 7. It's as simple as that. We get European football. I don't care what type of European football we get. If it's conference, if it's Europa League, if it's Champions League, which looks slimmer, it looks absolutely probably honestly non-existent now. It's still an amazing fairy tale story for the year. Amazing fairy tale story.
Yeah, Europa League's the one. If we can get Europa Conference, we should still be very, very proud of what we've done if we were to finish 7th. But 6th is there to be got. If we get Europa League football, that is huge. That's huge for the club, huge for the players, and it's Unai Emery entering a competition that he's notorious in as well. And for us to be talking about it now still seems absolutely surreal, because we've got no right to be in that position given the start we had to the season, given that we just decided to write off the first 3 months of the season. Essentially, there's no way we should even be talking about this. But at the moment, I still think we're trending in the right direction. Still got that positive momentum, and a few teams around us. Tottenham are falling, like I say. You don't know what Brighton's reaction is going to be. They're a great side. Brighton thought they were really good today. Really unlucky to lose on penalties. Felt really sorry for Solly March. He didn't deserve that. He's been great this season. But, you don't know what effect that's going to have on them. So they've got games in hand on us at the moment. Liverpool are the ones I do think they'll pick up, and I think they'll nab 5th, Liverpool. But if we can finish 6th, even 7th, that's absolutely brilliant. And to be in Europe would be unbelievable. Now, I'm going to let you go because you are being held hostage, obviously, at the in-laws, but I appreciate very much you joining me to have a late night conversation. And thanks to those that have joined us as well, because Oak says Spurs will have another caretaker before we play them. I would not rule that out at all at the moment. They are a
Tim Sherwood
club at the moment. Tim Sherwood into the end of the season makes complete sense. Let's make sure that happens. So yeah, the Tuesday fixtures messed up the Villa View a little bit. So I think we'll probably do 1874 later on in the week, and I need to sort out the match preview situation. But I've been away over the weekend, so I've not really had a chance to sort anything out. But as I say, thanks to everyone that's joined us live tonight. We'll let you know on socials what we plan to do content-wise over the next couple of days. If you want to go back and watch every other Villa podcast that Neil's been on this weekend, then go and do that as well. Thanks ever so much for listening. Thanks to Adam, the producer, as well. And up the Villa.